Hello, beautiful human beings. My name is Arthur, and in the background, we've got Princess Kitty Cat, and a warm welcome to this video. To anyone who's new to this channel is about learning to distinguish between the difference between, I just repeated myself. I'm excited to have Princess in the video. Hi, girl, let's move that so everyone can see the pretty girl. So this channel is dedicating to helping people learn to distinguish between actual Advaita Vedanta or actual non-duality and fake non-duality, often called Neo-Advaita. So if you'd like to know more about this topic, you can check out my website, which is posted there and below. So I got a very interesting comment. I'm looking forward to responding to it. I wrote an article on Quora. And the question was, why does Eckhart Tolle have to be a millionaire if he's truly enlightened and free of greed while billions of people are starving in the world? So I just put aside the Eckhart Tolle piece. The question is, why would any spiritual teacher, and there are many, there are many Neo-Advaita teachers, there's many spiritual teachers who supposedly are enlightened and lead these lavish lifestyles. And this question really asks about that. And I address in this question that there's a big difference between a self-appointed modern teacher and an actual guru. And I got a really interesting response. I'm looking forward to breaking it down a little bit. And here is the response. I got many responses, but here's one. Mr. Burton, an observation and a question. My current hypothesis is that the modern gurus are not exclusive in their errors. I think every recorded such self-declared enlightened or spiritually inspired / revealed to / channeled to / manifestation of source higher spirit, originator of lineages and full religions was a flawed human and having one or more overwhelming wordless experience which they then attempted to describe and prescribe about when again in their normal, locally, culturally, linguistically, and personally limited perspective, almost by definition incomplete and flawed. Then their followers and disciples set up further institutions with rules and their flawed interpretations. So it seems unlikely that anyone now, even with high charisma, is able to transmit anything as nearly purely as the originating Christ or Buddha did. Given that premise, we all then must start by unsteadily but earnestly seeking the best for ourselves at the time and guard against blind devotion and orthodoxy, despite road signs being covered in graffiti, so to speak. Wow. And also to my live viewer, feel free to post any comments or questions. So I really like this response. Excuse me, one moment. So I really like this response, and I also really don't. It gives me the heebie-jeebies. Half, I'm like, there's something really wise here. So let's break it down a little bit. So what I've learned is that to recover from Neo-Advaita, I had to learn to think critically. I had to learn how to think critically, logically, and to challenge and question everything. That's part of how I made my way out. So this person says, my current hypothesis is that modern gurus are not exclusive in their errors. Okay, so right from the start, modern gurus, so, this question was about Eckhart Tolle, but we're talking about Neo-Advaita here, right? They're not gurus. And there's a huge difference between, say, Ramana Maharshi, Adi Shankara, and these current And Neo-Advaita teachers. I don't like to name people by name. Let's put Eckhart Tolle aside. Let's put it this way. Any modern spiritual teacher who claims they're enlightened and lives a lavish lifestyle. Night and day difference. First of all, one of the huge differences is all of these people have declared themselves enlightened. Whereas the classical teachers, even Adi Shankara, had a guru. So right there and then, and none of the classical teachers lived lavish lifestyle. So right there and then, completely different, fundamentally different. So I don't like that this person implied that modern gurus have anything in common with a classical teacher, with an actual guru. I'll continue. I think every recorded such self-declared enlightened, so that there's another thing. Most classic gurus do not declare themselves enlightened. Their guru says, go out and teach. Or, see, an actual guru is so humble. They would never say they're enlightened. It's absurd to even think about. So that's what I didn't like about this answer. Is there some like tricky little messages and ideas kind of hid between the words? Okay. I think every recorded such self-declared enlightened or spiritually inspired, revealed to, channeled to, manifestation of source, higher spirit, originator of a lineage and religions, was a flawed human, having one or more overwhelming wordless experience, which they then attempted to describe and prescribe about when they, again, in their normal, locally, culturally, linguistically, and personally limited perspective. Okay, so I really respect what's being said here. This part, minus the self-declared. It's very articulate. I appreciate it. It's also kind of complex. And I've learned to shy away from complexity, which is another symptom of modern spirituality, is complex declarations and statements. I'm not saying this person's, but to break down what they said, so I don't disagree that these various great sages was a flawed human being. So this person then wrote, was a flawed human being having one or more overwhelming wordless experience, which they then attempted to describe and prescribe about when, again, in their normal, locally, culturally, linguistically, and personally limited perspective. Wrong. That's not what happened. The great sages, almost all of them had a guru and a tradition. Completely wrong. So the first part of, anyway, that premise is completely false. Yes, occasionally there's spontaneous awakenings. But this idea that it just kind of happens in a void, that's modern spirituality. Like someone just goes off and has an experience, makes up their own tradition. Then they don't have a guru to check them. Now you're starting to see why this answer gave me some heebie-jeebies. Like that's the whole modern spiritual thing, not just Neo-Advaita. Like, hey, I just had this cool experience. I'm awakened. Here's my teaching. And their teaching is new. It's like they've created it. Adi Shankara, Adi Shankara had a guru, but one of my favorite gurus, Ramakrishna, had 3 gurus. And he had profound spiritual experiences, not just one, like profound, like every day of his life. And then he would take those experiences and express them using the language that he was taught by his gurus. And also his experiences matched the teaching. Yes, every teacher will bring some their own flavor, a refinement, a clarification of a topic. But that's the thing. Modern gurus, modern spirituality, Neo-Advaita especially, their teaching contradicts everyone else's teaching. So what I'm doing right now is part of how I recovered from Neo-Advaita. I listened to and thought about Neo-Advaita teachings, and then I just deconstructed them. I don't know if this person's doing it consciously, but basically they're weaving a narrative, which is what Neo-Advaita does. It weaves an untrue narrative. So in between this person's words, there's all sorts of implications that are just simply not true. Continue. Almost by definition, incomplete and flawed, meaning what they expressed. Almost by definition, incomplete and flawed, meaning that what they expressed was incomplete and flawed. I mean, I'm not even going to touch that. That just feels messy. Any sage will tell you that the truth cannot be put into words, but the path to the truth can be put in words. Then their followers and disciples set up further institution with rules and their flawed interpretations. I'm not talking about disciples and followers right now. I'm talking about this article that I wrote was about a self-appointed guru. And now we're talking about Neo-Advaita, self-appointed gurus. We're not talking about, so this person has tried to shift the topic to, again, make their point. So it seems unlikely that anyone now, even with high charisma, is able to transmit anything as nearly purely as the originating Christ or Buddha did. So complicated. See, I do, in my own mind, I kind of have a, welcome to my live viewers, by the way. Your comments and questions are welcome, and welcome to those who just joined in. Yes, for me, I put Christ very high up. But this idea that everyone below them, if I'm right, if this person is right, isn't able to transmit anything pure, blah. It's a horrible, horrible idea, and completely contradictory to Sanatana Dharma, the underlying philosophy of Hinduism, is that people are finding freedom today through that system. And again, that system is always based on having a guru who found freedom, who had a guru, who had a guru, who had a guru. I'll read that again. So it seems unlikely that anyone now, even with high charisma, is able to transmit anything as nearly purely as the originating Christ or Buddha did. I just think that's just utter nonsense. I've met, how many teachers have I met who I consider to be free? I mean, I've met two Hindu, a legitimate, like have a in the tradition teachers who I consider free. I mean, I could be wrong. And I believe there are thousands. Like these are just the ones I've met personally. I've read. And so I reject that idea that everything that Jesus and Buddha had the highest enlightenment. Maybe they did, but that now there's nothing pure because they're not here. I reject that. And I reject the general direction this whole person is trying to take, and more. Given that premise, we all must start by unsteadily but earnestly seeking the best for ourselves at this time and guard against blind devotion and orthodoxy, despite road signs covered in graffiti, so to speak. So the implication here is, well, these false teachers, Neo-Advaita teachers who claim to be enlightened yet live lavish lifestyles, like, they're not the Christ or Buddha, but we got to do the best we can. No, I reject that completely. I'm to the point where I won't even talk about non-duality with someone who isn't a legitimate non-dual guru or has one. And second of all, I won't read any spiritual teaching that's not based on detachment from the world and or surrender to God. Those are the criteria I've set for myself. So no. And yes, I went through this process. I went through this process of following fake teachers for like 25 plus years. So I would say it's less about doing, like, oh, well, Christ and Buddha aren't here. So I'll just follow, even though this teacher is, not really enlightened, I'll just follow him. No, it actually came down to me getting clear what I wanted and that I wanted actual freedom. And, Neo-Advaita teachers offer actual freedom. And some of these modern teachers will offer it for a price tag. But I finally was able to see through that illusion and delusion. And if someone doesn't live a detached, simple lifestyle, for me, they're not worthy of the name spiritual teacher. Wouldn't give them the time of day. Well, I'd give them the time of day. I wouldn't give them my ear, though. Wouldn't listen to a single one of their teachings. Yeah. Wow. So that was a lot. And so you may agree or disagree with my assessment of this particular response. But the thing is, from my point of view, this person was, I believe, unconsciously weaving illusion and delusion and untruth, and again, trying to steer the conversation in a certain direction, which is just how Neo-Advaita operates. So thank you all so much for hanging out with me while I deconstructed this. And I wish everyone a beautiful, beautiful day. And thank you to Princess Kitty Cat for her support. Have a blessed day. Take care.